I work with so many successful people, and those that come up to the question of, should I join something like the Master's Program? Should I get an executive coach like you, Jeff, and work with you? That walking up to that question often has zero to do with money, has everything to do with time. Why? Time's our most valuable commodity that is gaining value every moment that slips away. Welcome to the Leveraging Success Podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Gerhardt. Every time that we're together, I want to help you work less, make more, and with the freedom that you gain, I want you to use that to be an incredible kingdom leader, living the life mission that God put you on. I'm so glad to be with you because every time that we're together, we're working towards this end. Now, maybe you hear that and you think, well, how is that going to work? How am I going to use my freedom to be able to be a kingdom leader? Well, that's what I get to do in coaching and consulting with some of the most incredible, impactful people that have had lots of success in business, but they've been wondering, how can I arrange that success to have that same incredible outcome, to have an extraordinary family, and to live a life that will be rewarded, that will see an eternal echo forever and ever. Now, you love Jesus and you've had success in your business. And what that can leave you feeling is that the most that you can provide is to be a kingdom financier. Now, that's a role that we get to play when we have means with which to give. But that's not to say that I have to have an extraordinary income stream, relatively speaking, to be able to give. No, of course, we know that it's all about the heart that we've got and the way with which we apportion what God's given us to manage to give that into the kingdom. But it's a role. It's a role, but it's not the only role. You see, you're not just a walking ATM machine or a credit card with legs. You have a role with which to bring in your leadership. You see, God wants your best performance to be in the thing that He made you for His glory, not just to create more in this world, to consume more. All of the increase that God brings through you is meant to create increase in what He's expecting. What is He expecting? Well, we go back to this simple phrase that's a summation of Jesus's clarity with the law and His Great Commission. That's to love God, love people, make disciples, or what we like to say is love God, love people, teach others how to love God, love people. Now, you're living this life mission. You're understanding, if you're living it, you're understanding that God made you for a purpose, and that purpose is to help other people to know Him. You see, this time that we get to be on this blue marble is 60, 70, 80 years if we're strong, as Moses pointed out. And so the vibrance and the time with which we can give the best of us is limited. And this limited period is going to be for our lives until we die or Jesus returns and makes all things new. But until that point, we have an opportunity to take this life and bring other people along where we're going, because we realize this world is not our home. Now, I know with some of you that are looking in the news and looking at the election, the results, the questions of the outcomes and what's going to happen next can leave you with an uncertainty here. And I want you to be certain again that this world is not your home. We're passing through it. Our citizenship, our future home is our permanent home. Now, while we're here, that's not to say that we don't want to make the best of it, to take care very, very well of what God's given us, but seeing it as a period piece and anchoring our lives in eternity, that means that I have a mission. I'm an ambassador. I am both an ambassador and royalty. I'm a king or queen. I have this ability to take this royalty and this ambassadorship and see the mission that God's given me. Love God, love people, teach others how to love God, love people. So with that, I want to make the most of this. I want to take the success God's given me, the talent God's given me, to make that have a laboratory of my family and things that I'm stewarding, to make those things be fruitful. And then to see, God, what would you use me for to have an extraordinary outcome in my life? Now, going towards this end, there are 3 things that you need to have in play to be able to live an extraordinary life. And this is the 3-pronged strategy for you to be able to have outcomes that are going to put you far ahead of where you could be, to truly go after what could be 100x in your life. Now, to see that happen, we need 3 things: balance, margin, and focus. Now, when we talk about balance as the first of the pillars of these strategies, is to say that I need strength to be able to have balance. Not to have balance in a way that is imagining that everything gets equal fair share of me and my time. No. Balance comes through strength. My favorite example is to say, take a Simone Biles, right, who is an incredible gymnast, and you look at her and you realize that balance and control of her body didn't come through anything other than strength. The amount of muscles that she has from the top of her head to the bottom of her feet allow for her to control the center of her life. And so strength gives that capability. So why do we want strength? Well, it's very simple. The stronger that I am, the more that I can do with less resources. You know what it's like to be able to open a tight jar, and turn your wrists. And if your forearms are strong, your wrists are strong, your hands are strong, that opening of that jar is very simple. It's a quick work. And so strength gives me a leverage point. It gives me an advantage. So what would it look like if my life had so much strength that the overflow of that strength made it so that I was extremely effective in my marriage? I was extremely effective in my family. My career, it was actually that it seemed like I was a lot more like a musician or a performing artist, where everything was working around me and I just showed up, dropped gold in my career for an hour or two and walked out again, while the whole rest of the show was being carried on by a team. And that the more that I got leverage, the more that I was able to do more things with less. And what would that allow for? It would allow for me to have presence with my family. It would allow for me to be at every rehearsal, show, performance, game, place where my presence makes an impact with my children. And that my life with my wife would all be about purpose together, and not just an exchange of love and holding on to career and kids, but rather that we're doing those things and some, because I've got leverage and I've got freedom. So I could then also use my freedom to be incredible in Christ's body as I'm serving his church, as well as the people that don't know him yet. And what could God use me uniquely for to be able to go after that? Now, hang on with me. When I get to focus, I'm going to tell you a story of a unique kingdom leader who took success and leveraged it for incredible outcomes. Okay, so balance, right? Here at the beginning, I'm talking about balance. Now, we talk about balance in 10 realms, right? And I explained it as like there's this core of you, and that if it's really strong, it's overflowing into the places where I have roles that I need to be faithful in. And then that spills over into opportunity for me serving the church and the world from the inside out. So I want to be evaluating that, because it's a power core in me that I'm saying I want to continue to make my 4 parts of me, my 4 staff members that report to me, my body, my mind, my soul, and my spirit, to be in a continual upgrade process. So body, it's all about vibrance. My favorite book on this that I've been reading, or I read earlier this year, started last year. It's a thick book. It's called Outlive by Peter Attia. And Outlive talks about what does it look like for you to be vibrant for the rest of your life. I don't know how many more years I'll have, but for what I've got left, what would it take for me to have a full of energy ability to be able to plan for that even when I'm late stage, I've got energy, focus, engagement. Well, okay, so body, it's an important part. Mind is all about the wisdom space. What am I thinking about that's creating reasoning channels that puts me above and beyond? People seek me for my wisdom, and because they say, hey, there's something about you that puts you in the know that I could draw from. And it's not just in the professional space. It can be with my family and the kingdom space. So they're just simply saying there's something about you. So my mind is something that I want to see growing. And I understand that leaders are readers. So that growth space on my mind, the wisdom channels, comes from reading. Then my soul, that's all about my relationships. That's this horizontal way with which you experience my energy, my emotions, how I make you feel. You have a story about me, and if I know you, I have a story about you too. If we've experienced each other, we might not bring that to the front of our minds. It may be in the back, but it's a subtle story that we're saying. And so I want the story that you're saying about me to be about, wow, he really cares about me. He goes out of his way. He's serving me. And as I'm serving, that creates influence. And the more influence that I've got, the more ability I have to lead. So that's another part of my power core is my soul and then my spirit. The most important of all four of these parts of me is the spirit that was given to me as a result of saying yes to Jesus. And so this relationship with the Father, with God, interacting with him is a day by day, moment by moment discussion, a running dialogue with the existence of God here with me all the time. So working all four of those parts and seeing them advance, to grow, to go deeper, to take more risk, to try more, to have pain and strain in all four of those things, to go into the gym spiritually in my soul, to change some of my behaviors, to continue to make sure that I'm gaining reflection and doing better. And all four of these areas want to have strategies for that. So I measure that because the strength of that creates an overflow for me to be incredible in my roles. Now, my roles are my laboratory with which I prove fruitfulness and faithfulness. Now, those roles, they're from my marriage to my children and family to my resources to my career. Now, each one of those have a role that I have committed to. If I've committed to them contractually or in front of God and our family, or we've had children together in any form, biological adoption, then I've taken those roles on. Or fostering, I've taken that role on. And I want to be faithful there. And while I'm faithful there, fruit should start to show up, fruit that lasts. What does that look like? Well, more discipleship that's happening in these faithful roles. And more people are saying yes to Jesus because of my leadership and that faithfulness in a growing way. Now, once that has happened, or the more that that's happened, you should expect that a faithful God is going to see a faithful leader and say, hey, I've got something for you. You want to come along and join me in the adventure where I'm already at work. And that's where we get invited into those opportunities. So the balance and strength of my life is the platform of my life. And the stronger that this platform is, the more that it can hold. It's like a foundation for a tall building. Well, how great do you want your life? How extraordinary do you want the outcomes? How rewarded in eternity do you want your life to be? Well, if you aspire to something grand and great, focusing on that strength in the platform is what I'm all about. Now, I'm really visual. You can see me, if you're watching the video, I'm looking down at my hands trying to shape something out, because it really takes the shape of that and strength of that to create something that's going to have that great great outcome. All right, so balance is our first strategy. And the balance is all about strength. And the strength comes from the inside out, from the power core to the roles to the opportunities of adventure that God will call us out into. The second strategy is all about margin. And this is the freedom to. Now, some people are subject to, but I want you to have freedom to. Now, you know what it means in a contract where it says someone is subject to. And that subject to creates obligations. And oftentimes the subject tos that we put ourselves into are obligations that make us victim of the calendar, the traffic, the weather, circumstances, whatever that is. Well, the more that I language it that way or have that belief in my heart that I'm subject to, puts me in a often gilded cage, frankly, that I have believed for. I can't leave this. I have to stay in my cage. Oh, you say you're free. I say, how often can you get away from your office? And even if you've got that beautiful office and you own the building and you've got the perfect parking spot or whatever and all the benefits, I say, do you really have the freedom that would allow you to do what you want when you want to do it? This then is what we're after, is freedom to, not subject to. And I want my whole life to have freedom to. And a lot of that, by the way, is mental. Now, recognize if you're listening to this podcast, the target audience for me are those that have had a success in their life, one with which they can say, yeah, I've succeeded in business. I've succeeded in life. I've got a certain amount of freedom. And some of you could have inherited that freedom. Regardless, the question is, are you free? Stay free. Don't become subject to man again. And keeping that freedom is, in this case, often a strategic choice or a mental move, not necessarily seeking someone's permission. It's often just the permission that you need to give to yourself. So having that permission is to gain margin. Now, if you've had success in business, you know that margin is what you're trying to store up financially. I want you to also have freedom in time. And those that have freedom in time create margin of time, and they keep their calendar well within their control. They don't make it available to anyone anytime. Book me as often as you want. Those that get onto your calendar should be a part of your agenda, but that you also have a repository of freedom. Freedom to focus, freedom to Sabbath and restore, freedom to control the things that get there. And that doesn't mean you don't have some buffer time available to, subject to some other people's needs. I'm not trying to become so isolated. I'm like a monk who's climbed up to a mountain and said, hey, I'm just dealing with God and not humans anymore. No. I'm suggesting that buffer time creates availability to those that are going to need you, but in a limited sense, on your agenda. How much do you want to offer? What's the right amount of focus time for you to have to live on mission? Margin doesn't happen on its own. And it really starts with vision. What do I want to see happen for my lifetime? What do I want to see happen this year? What about the next 90 days? And when I carve out the answers to those things, I'm then able to drive an agenda week by week that's going towards those outcomes. Now, the fun thing about this is, and when we're living with vision, especially vision that's wild, that's crazy, that's got risk involved in it, is that we don't know exactly how this drama is going to unfold. But the only way for it to unfold is for me to get moving. And if I want to get moving on the things that matter most, the priority living of my life, it's going to take me holding back margin. I'll put it to you this way. If I came to you today and said, hey, I've got a business opportunity for you. It's got a 10x multiplier and I can get it back to you 10x in 12 months. Would you be in? And in all likelihood, you're going to say, well, I need to see the business plan, but if this is real, Jeff, I'm in. And saying yes to me, the next question that you would have is, do I have the margin, the capital available to come in on this? Because the capital call is now to turn it around to you in 12 months at 10x. Well, this could be a problem, right? Because if I haven't got the capital available to me and I can't borrow it away or get it away so that I can give it to you, or you can give it to me to be in this investment, well, it's going to be a disappointment. And oftentimes, as successful people, we've created these knots that keep us in a hamster wheel of insanity, expecting someday this is going to change. It's going to change. Really, it's going to change someday. Honey, I'm promising you someday this is going to change, right? Broken promise, broken promise. And while we're looking at the sands of time slip away, where we would like to have the margin to say, yes, I'm going to be there at that game. Yes, in fact, I'm going to coach that team. Yes, in fact, I'm going to teach that class. Yes, I'm going to be available on this very important thing that's a part of the agenda that I really, really care about, but I can't do anything about it because I believe that I can't do anything. I'm subject to my business. I'm subject to, and so I just don't have the time and availability. You know, I work with so many successful people, and those that come up to the question of, should I join something like the master's program? Should I get an executive coach like you, Jeff, and work with you? That walking up to that question often has zero to do with money, has everything to do with time. Why? Time's our most valuable commodity that is gaining value every moment that slips away, because every moment that's gone is a breath closer to death. And because of that, the time and the amount of time that I've got left is a big question mark. Hey, one thing you have to understand, don't let this lie slip in, that you're out of time, that you don't have enough time, that you're too far gone. No. Starting today, you can make the most of what's left. And don't allow the enemy to tell you that you don't have enough, you aren't enough, or you're too far gone, and there've been too many mistakes or too many issues in your past to believe that you can live on a special, extraordinary mission for God. All right, so margin, right? Balance through strength, margin so that you have freedom too, and then finally focus. Now, focus is one of those things where you want to be able to define your outcome. I used to love when Bob would remind me, Bob Shank, the founder of Priority Living, would say to me, Jeff, don't take anything that's not on your terms. And by that, you're going to be offered, if you're talented, capable, accessible, you're going to be offered all sorts of roles. And as you're offered all these roles, you can be overwhelmed with somebody's asking me. Look, you need to work on your terms, and the terms need to be focused on, who am I? What are my capabilities? What is the best of me? What do I roll out of bed and love to do? And everyone says, I don't know how you did that, but I'm going to pay you a lot of money to do that. Well, that's my capabilities. This is my potential. So what is my potential? What's the greatest potential? What's the most leverageable potential that I love? Because I need my potential and my passion to be engaged. Passion's defined by the things that I'm willing to suffer for because I love them so much. I don't know why. I simply have a reflex. I'll go through the pain. I'm willing to take the challenge. I'm passionate about something. I'll take the pain to go for it. So potential needs to be matched up with my passions and the things that my heart beats for. And then I need to understand my purpose, and that being under the purpose of God. Now, when I talk about this, what I explain is that our God is the greatest holdco owner of all time, right? He's this holdco owner that says, look, I'm going to have a portfolio of people in my business that want to operate in my mission of love God, love people, make disciples. And so bring me your business proposal, and you can hang your sub LLC under my holdco. And I'll be your board of directors. God will be your board of directors. And then you'll get to be the CEO of this LLC. You're going to go to your board seeking wisdom, relationships, capital, special capabilities. Yeah, of course. And so God then becomes my owner, I having that operation underneath him. And that is my purpose, that sub LLC that says, this is what I do, God, that allows for love God, love people, make disciples, all three. Can't be one, two, got to be all three. So knowing that, then I know my mission, I know my purpose, I know the thing that he made me to be fruitful in my calling. Now, I just got to push back for those of you that simply believe that my vocation is my calling. No, your vocation is the platform or tool or vehicle to carry a fruitful calling. And the question is, does that vocation allow for you, or have you engineered it to create outcomes that create more love for God, more love for people, more people knowing God and being a disciple of yours, or following you while you follow Jesus, or following Jesus directly, creating discipleship. So as you're looking at this, you're saying, okay, I want to be focused on that thing. I don't want to be a generalist. I don't want to be everybody's sort of call from the bullpen. I just need you to do this thing. And I don't want to do the things that people value in me that I don't love to do, even if it honors God. I want to be after the thing that I love, am willing to work hard at, and will suffer for. Hey, I hope you've enjoyed this conversation. I enjoy helping leaders to find the answer to their life, to create a strategy, a whole life plan that they can live and follow forever. Every time that we're together, we get this opportunity to do that. So thank you for being here. I hope if you're watching on YouTube, you'll subscribe to this channel. If you're seeing me on X, that you'll follow me. Or if you're listening to this podcast during a run or out while you're working out, that you'll subscribe to this podcast. And if you'd like me to answer a question, I'd love for you to reach directly to me at jeff@leveragingsuccesspodcast.com. Again, thank you for being here. Live your life on purpose. Remember that someday each of us who love Jesus will stand before him and give an account for everything we've done in our life. I want the accounting to be all in the plus, and that God would see me for all that I've done in collaboration with him. Until next time, God bless you.